Hello, my name is Greg Madison, and this is The Living Process. And this episode, I have a very special guest, Shirley Turcotte. Shirley is very well known in Canada and around North America as the originator of Indigenous, previously Aboriginal focusing-oriented therapy. And she rarely agrees to be interviewed and avoids the spotlight, as she says near the end of the interview. So this is a real special occasion, and I was so glad to be able to listen to her describe her work because it's such a rich integration of some of the bodily felt sensing that we appreciate in focusing into a really broad cultural context that is much more community centered and relationally based than we often understand focusing in the more Western context. She talks a little bit about the ideas of all my relations and the red line that goes through one's ancestors right into the present moment and the present issue, the importance of land-based focus in therapy. I found it a very enlivening and fascinating account of the work that they've been doing now for 40 years. And it's not just in the therapy room, it's far beyond that. And it feels like quite a cultural movement, and makes me wonder whether there's a similar movement that could happen in other cultural contexts and sort of in the West more generally. Anyway, I was really happy and honored that Shirley would take time to talk to us. So, episode number 40 with Shirley Turcotte. Hello.
Morning.
Good morning.
Hi. Do you mind if I start with a short, real fast smudge?
Sure.
Just real quick. Get me into my bones. How are you this morning? Or is it morning where you are?
For me, it's just coming up to 2 o'clock.
Okay, good afternoon.
Yes, thank you. I wish it was morning. It would be nice to start again.
Would it? Just a minute. I'll just smudge myself a bit here. Smudge you a bit too.
Yeah, do smudge me, please.
Just a little bit of a fan us off a bit. Start us in a good way.
Yeah.
Move down into our bones. All right. Hi. Hi.
Hello.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So I want to just welcome you to the living process. And I know that you're very well known within the focusing world and far beyond the focusing world. Um, I always like to start just by asking people how they got into focusing or focusing oriented therapy or whatever, how you ever found it.
Yeah, it's quite the story, and
Mhm.
so I was way back late '70s and early '80s. I was doing a lot of Indigenous psychotherapy, and I was trying to bring Indigenous psychotherapy more uh, the into the eye, mainly into the Indigenous eye, into the communities, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And there was a lot of pushback about what is even Indigenous psychotherapy. Like it was just I was introducing a whole new word, which was not, not exactly acceptable in the well, it's too fresh. And Mary Armstrong, a beautiful woman who just recently passed, bless
Mhm.
who I loved and have known forever, she was she would come to some of my workshops, and she said, "What you're doing is very familiar to focusing."
Mm.
So that's how it happened. She would she'd say, "You really need to know this tool because," well, she didn't call it a tool. "You need to know this process," or whatever the words were. Um, and um, and so I was really busy. So I went. I don't even know where I went, but I went to meet Gene in some city. I think it was Chicago or New. I don't even know what city it was. He was doing a workshop. I went down, and I kind of liked what I was seeing because it was an inward process, and it kind of connected with all my relations, Indigenous philosophies in some kinds of ways.
Hmm.
And so then I spent uh, I don't know, over 4 or 5 years. I spent time with Gene. Sometimes I would go to his house. Sometimes I would, or we'd talk on the phone because I was trying to build a way of marrying, like
Hmm.
appropriating some of his language in particular, appropriating a bit of that process and kind of incorporating it a bit with Indigenous psychotherapy. And so in doing that, it formulated an all my relations perspective of focusing. And so by attaching him and his words with his appreciation, because I never
Hmm.
did anything without his okay, right? Because that's important in the Indigenous world, right? If we're going to appropriate, we need to go to the founder, and the founder needs to give us permission. There's a whole protocol around
Hmm.
how that happens.
Hmm.
And so that was it. So I would do a piece of work. I would go over it with Gene, and this is okay. It was always okay with Gene. He was always so gracious. I always considered him, a beautiful elder, and I stayed pretty close with him until he died, and then I kind of left the institute because we're very different. Indigenous focusing therapy is quite a bit different, but his language
Hmm.
uh, and his connection allowed Indigenous focusing psychotherapy to flourish. So it was somewhat of justice and political affiliation, and somewhat uh, and parts of focusing really resonated with
Hmm.
I thought Indigenous ways of knowing.
Hmm.
So it's quite, there's a marrying there,
Yeah.
and we've kept that. And I mean, as you know, I'm a half breed, which we don't usually use those terms anymore. But my
Yeah.
mother was a Russian Mennonite, but my father was Indigenous. I was not raised with my mother. I was raised more from an Indigenous life lived.
Okay.
And so the marrying of the two kind of that fit me okay, right? Sort of a Western lens
Hmm.
incorporated into an Indigenous lens.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and the Indigenous world, Western ways of being have been really dangerous, right? And haven't been, and they're suspicious
Hmm.
because the Indigenous Focusing-Oriented Therapy is really for the Turtle Island Indigenous, and that's North American, right?
Hmm.
And, the largest genocide in history ever, if you look recorded history, is a genocide of the Indigenous peoples. It's the largest in the world. It would come up number one on AI if you looked at what's the biggest genocide that ever occurred. It's in the Americas. And so, we're just coming out of genocide, and we still have genocidal issues that we're still trying to handle. We're still losing a lot of our children.
Hmm.
Uh, we don't have land back. There's a lot of atrocity, uh, intergenerational and ongoing. The murdered and missing, right? It took me 50 years to find my brother, who I just found, right? From the 60 scoop. Kids were dispersed and sent all over. I was sent to Texas, right? We were all, children were sent overseas, they were scoop taken. So we're still in it. We're still
Hmm.
in genocide and trying to come home. Whereas, languicide was a big problem. They took all our languages away. So trying to find a safe language for Indigenous psychotherapy was a huge challenge for me.
Yes.
Gene's language, the language he uses,
Yeah.
is less threatening from a psychological perspective for Indigenous. We need genocide-informed ways of being, right?
Mm.
Because our blood memory, which is we call the red line, is our experiential knowledge, and that needs to come into the psychotherapy.
Let me just say something. I really love what you're saying, but it generates a lot of questions for
Oh,
me. So I want to just go back a little bit to see, first of all, if I really understand. You needed to have an integration of some kind of some of what Gene had come up with and some of his language, because I'm guessing a lot of his language, his attempt at least was to make it as everyday language as possible rather than trying.
it's culturally neutral.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly. Not pathologizing, not
exactly.
overly academic and alienating.
And may I say dangerous to
Yes.
who have been languicided, which is
Yeah.
huge for the Indigenous community. Languicide is huge.
Yes.
It's a murder of culture and everything.
So you were very careful
Yeah.
about what you brought in. And you also were very respectful back to Gene about, not wanting to take something from him and use it in a way that he wasn't approving of. So I really appreciate that. But my first question is, it sounds like focusing gave you at least partly language, but also maybe more than that. I'm not sure. But that you
Gave me
you were
power, like
power.
Western power, that
Okay, yeah.
Indigenous were still being so oppressed and
Yes.
suppressed
Yeah.
that if you just called it Indigenous psychotherapy,
Yeah.
it would not be received.
Okay.
So he was like the oil that could help receive the medicine.
Yes.
You need something to pass the medicine forward, and no one was going to. And so we needed something like Gene, who was
Hmm.
willing to allow us to appropriate it, to
Hmm.
bring those medicines forward.
Hmm. Something about the world that he was in, bringing that in some way, sort of being able to pass it through what you were doing so that others could understand it and respect it more.
I think Gene understood genocide,
Yeah.
and I think he understood that we needed something very different,
Yes.
that could be alongside.
Hmm.
That's how I would put it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and he kept me close, which was very helpful. Right, he was
Hmm.
always accessible to me, and
Hmm.
he would even call me. So
Hmm.
he was reciprocal. He was
Yeah.
so respectful in a cultural way. I don't know, the protocols of indigeneity, requires relationship.
Hmm.
If you don't have relationship, everything is in relationship in the Indigenous world.
Hmm.
Past, present, and future is all here right now. Gene allowed for us to be in relationship, which then allowed us to work some of this stuff forward, and that
Hmm.
that, that was powerful.
It sounded to me as though you're integrating it into a much larger cultural context and world.
Well, also you have to understand that the experiencing of Indigenous peoples is not personal. It's all, well, there's some person, but it is an all my relations experience. In
Hmm.
other words, the felt sense is not me, my, or I.
Hmm.
It's a collective, and the experiencing that you've gone through in your world, in your life, is a collective experience. It's not the individual in the Indigenous world. Everything is collective.
Hmm.
So it is that big, right?
I love that. Can you give me, as somebody not from that world, is there a way that you can give me more of a sense of
Yeah, I
that?
thought
Like,
about this
yeah,
morning. I thought what I can
perfect.
do is give you, will have to be a personal experience because I won't tell other people's stories, but
Okay.
take you through a way of looking, because indigeneity looks at time as all here and all now, and that whatever you've experienced is your intergenerational knowledge through time. And that, so if there's a flashback and you're traumatized by something,
Hmm.
something's triggering you, we see that as an invitation, an incredible invitation. It's so respectfully another time that's all here, trying to show you something
Hmm.
that might be critical to what's going down now, right?
Hmm.
So you're so and that whatever your flashback is, or whatever is coming through your body, your bodily experiencing, that doesn't belong to you. That belongs to the experience. So it could be part of the whole thing. So I'll try to take you through.
Yeah.
And then there's the other thing, is that everything is related. All my relations aspect of Indigenous psychotherapy. So I'll try to just say, okay, so something's happening in my life here. I get triggered, and I find myself um, in the East. Okay, first I have to explain the East is where your body uh, is like in the East, and you can see I'm a little girl or I'm a younger. It's the childlike space, right?
Yeah.
And then the South is like the teenager space. So time is broken down into quadrants.
Hmm.
East, South, West is here I am with you. We're in the West. I'm present and completely current. And then there's the North. And the North is where you're in all my relations. And that is where you're part of the cosmos and everything. You're related and into the all of it. And so something happens to me today, I get triggered, I'm in the East, I'm observing that, and then I open up, where am I, where it's like this, and that opens, oh, I'm in the basement, I'm being raped. Okay, what else is happening? So you don't relive any experiences, you start using that flashback as an opening to see, because it's all over, it's already taken place, right? So
Hmm.
I can then see, okay, what happened? I moved into the wall, into the concrete, a wall. So I'm there on the bed, there I'm in concrete. And then that's when the kind of the magic starts to happen. That's when you go, okay, never mind what happened over there, be in the concrete. What's that there? Um, okay, what is the concrete doing? What is concrete? Okay, so I'm in the concrete, it's holding me, it's cooling me down. The concrete's cooling me down from this hot stuff that's going on, this horrible hot stuff. I'm cooling down. Even going even further, what is the concrete? For, let's see, you're in relationship, the concrete is as alive as you are. It has as much personality and information as you do, because all my relations means everything is alive.
Hmm.
Everything is in flux. Everything is part of it. So let's see, what is the concrete? It's stone, it's made of stone and water. Well, that's stone and water, that's medicines, right? What's that? Stone and water. That's like stone is the oldest ancestor of all. Okay, I'm being looked after here. And just lets me go even further. If this stone, uh, is there more? Okay, yeah, this stone is, if this was an actual ancestor, okay, well, in this case, this stone, yeah, this is my great grandmother. My great grandmother's here. So what you're picking up there is your orders of attachment. instead of your attachment disorders. So with those orders of attachment, then conversations can happen, whatever they might be. What that place knows and can tell me about the now situation, that might be helpful. Let me just see if I can, oh yeah, it's saying, be a stone in that situation, right? Whatever. So not only does it, help you be beside the atrocity without it and lowering your entire nervous system. It allows you to pick up medicine and information that will currently help you respond with today's problem, whatever that problem might be. The information will be there. But that, that once you're down in there in time, down in time, your bodily experiencing, let's say I go back to that experience and I don't go to the wall and I just notice instead, because you can notice anywhere because time is all around you, the experience is all there. What am I feeling there after or whatever? Let me check into my body. It's like it's like a wanting to pukey thing here. So then you could check even more. Notice, is that all yours? And then when I notice it, that pukey thing is the whole thing. That's my father's pukey thing. That belongs to all of us. That's not just me. So those huge, heavy duty, massive, horrible feeling places if they're that big, they're generally not you, they're part of all of it. And then where would I need to put that down? And that's where land comes in so beautifully. I could put that, let me just check where would I put that, and only the client knows, okay, that's going right to the left of my house over there, into a patch of a patch of poison ivy. I don't know what, but that's where it's going today, right? You can never guess. You can never, only your client knows. So you're really facilitating this movement through time, where everything is interconnected and everything is relatable, because all my relations means every single thing is alive. Right? So it has something to say and knows something about whatever went down anywhere in time, right? And the ancestors that are connected with that particular issue will be different. The red line, which is this thing that I just showed you with time and space and everything through time, that whole thing will look very different depending on whatever issue it's anchored to. So something different will show up completely unbeknownst to you or whoever's sitting there. So you can't predict, you can't prepare.
Yeah.
Right? Because the red line isn't all my relations line, and it's where all the orders of attachment lie. So you could have been diagnosed as attachment disordered. As soon as we get you into learning this modality of how to connect interconnectedly, all your orders of attachment start sweeping in. It actually changes your whole neurobiology. You start to walk differently in the world.
Can you say more about orders of attachment?
The orders of attachment,
Yeah.
usually when we're meeting people who have been through genocide or trauma, things have been broken really badly, especially if it's an intergenerational genocide, like in North America, like in the Americas, it's an intergenerational ongoing genocide. So, we still don't have clean water up north, right? We still don't have languages, so much is being still murdered, right? And still being lost, that people come in to psychotherapy pretty disconnected and maybe have had a whole bunch of labels. You know, you never had your mother, so there's an attach. I never had my mother, and I don't have an attachment disorder because I don't have my mother. But everything is geared up in the Western world to look at everything in the now and current.
Hmm.
It doesn't look holistically through time and through the generations. And in the Western world, things are dead or alive, and so you don't even open to the attachments that are all around you, the land-based attachments and the intergenerational attachments, which includes ancestral and the plants, the animals, everything that's all there. So um, when someone comes in, they've been colonized. We have to decolonize them, right? They've been colonized. I, me, mine, and now. And in the Indigenous world, there is no I, no me, no mine, and it's like quantum physics. Past, present, and futures are all right here, right now. So time is very big. You know, it's huge and dimensional, and so the attachments are always living and alive. So because the time is always alive, there's no dead time. There's no linear time in the Indigenous world. It's not linear. It's not past, present, and future is linear in the Western world.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at your client, you're looking in the now more, and and I don't see that. So if you're sitting there and I'm working with you, everything you're connected to is here in therapy too. So you're not my only client there. There's a whole bunch of speechlessness around you. There's aunties and uncles and attached to the issue. There's plants, there's animals, there's all sorts of things. But you maybe just came to therapy and you don't know about your orders of attachment. You're coming in all attachment disordered. You didn't have your mommy, right? Whatever. We don't even look at that. Most of like so many of us in the Indigenous world never had mothers, ever. Like we were taken, scooped, shipped off. It took us years to get our families back together. And then that was it. Like, how do you do that? It's complicated. It's difficult. It's, right. And so you're sort of, and that's the piece that becomes untrustworthy about non-Indigenous based psychotherapy for genocide survivors, because they're minimalized to this little way of being that is not gonna, because you can't survive genocide. The people that weren't at the time when these atrocities are happening, you know, if the concrete wall wasn't there talking to me or helping me, like, in other words, the attachments were all happening. They were always going on. And that's why you're still here, right? And we always say that we're still here. Why are we still here? Because our orders of attachment never ever left us, but our ability to see them and to connect with them was colonized. And so when we're doing psychotherapy and Indigenous psychotherapy, we are not just healing ourselves and our relatives, we're healing our ancestors, right? They need help too, right? They help, especially the ones that didn't have to go through colonizations. You know, they come as big helpers with all the things that they can bring. But those that were like severely scooped and traumatized and murdered, and we need to help them too, right? So it works in all directions. Relationship happens in every direction, past, present, future. So even our ancestors are.
Yeah. One of the things I'm getting from you is that, I mean, again, it feels very enlivening just listening to this, and there's a lot in it. but I wanted to say a couple of things. It sounds like it's the attachments that help a person get through.
It's the attachments that help a people.
Yes, okay, yeah, nice correction.
And that means
Yeah,
you're never alone.
yes,
And
exactly.
that's the thing
Yeah,
that, you're never alone, which means that that's a huge, huge thing because
yes.
a lot of Western therapy, uh, there's this crushing stuff about being alone.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and that, if I'm in grief, I'm in grief with people about a something,
Yeah,
right? I'm not alone
yeah.
here, right? I'm interconnected,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like this, the tree is here with me right here, or the whatever. If I in every grief I'm in, I can look at that grief and unpack it and see who's doing this with me,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a very collective psychotherapy. It's not very individualistic. That doesn't mean you don't have your own individual. Like if I'm right now, I'm deeply grieving leaving uh, the territory of BC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I was there since 1980. All my connections, all my Indigenous connection. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's a horrible thing to leave. It's big in my body,
Yeah.
but if I move into my body and I check in through the east, the west, the north, the south, right? If I get into the north a little bit and check into that, who is doing this with me? And oh my God, there's so many doing this with me, holding me up through this time. I'm so not alone. I can just see the faces of
Mm-hmm.
so many that hold me through this time. So you're never alone with your struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can get into the north, you can actually relate with, okay, who is it? How many, what? And I see there's like, I'm just being held up by so much.
But
And
when
so,
you say that there's so many with you, I'm assuming that there's so many with you through time in some way.
yeah,
It's not
my
just,
grandmother,
yeah,
no, it's
exactly.
through time.
Yeah.
Time is very big in the Indigenous world.
Mm-hmm.
That is this circular time. However, most of time, it's like that's your intergenerational knowledge. So most of the things you've experienced in time, like even in the now,
Mm-hmm.
uh, all of that is now your intergeneration. That's your knowledge keeping time. That's not your damaged time. That's your knowledge keeping time, which is huge, right? It's very uncomfortable to go there because a lot of the felt senses and the bodily experiencing of that time is in the room too. I could check in how much of this is my brother's, how much of this is my
Mm-hmm.
mother's that I'm holding here.
Mm-hmm.
And when I start paring down, because when it's huge, when it's called vicarious trauma
Mm-hmm.
in the Western world, but we would call it, thank God for your ability to hold this together, or somebody would have died here. Like if you can't all share this,
Mm-hmm.
if I can't pick up my mother's depression,
Mm-hmm.
she might die there, and who's going to bring the bread to the table?
Yeah.
Right? So then I need to see, okay, how much of this is mine? How much is mine that I carry for my mom, right? So that she could survive. We're very good at surviving genocide when we're in it together. And so we collectively pick that all up. Now, in the Western world, they might have a word for that in Western where it's considered something negative that you've gobbled up
Yes.
everybody's stuff. But
Yeah.
here, if you don't gobble it up, people are going to die. So
Mm-hmm.
the thing isn't not about gobbling it up. The thing is about, are you in relationship with what you've gobbled up, so you know how to place it and where to put it, and where to share it, how to set it down, and that's about land. That's all land-based stuff. So don't ever stop gobbling. Don't ever stop picking it up. When somebody's dying on the bed
Yeah.
and they can't stand their suffering, suffer a little bit for them, with them, right? And then make sure you know where you're putting that sucker, so you're not carrying it forward, right? So it's all relational, and
But when
and
you're exploring all of this and you realize what belongs to whom and where you've kind of picked it up and who you're carrying it for, then what is the intention then? To just acknowledge and respect that, or to get sort of, as you were saying, to kind of put it in a different place?
And that will be different for every session.
Okay.
So the honoring is really important, but
Yeah.
where you place it, how long you hold it, whether
Yeah.
you need to do that a bit longer, like it would depend on the client will know when you're doing the psychotherapy itself.
Yeah.
It will know. It will know, does
Hmm.
this maybe needs to go by a particular river. And so I'm going to set
Hmm.
that there.
Hmm.
The tendency often is for the client to want to give it back to that other person, and I interrupt that right away. Say, just check in. Are you absolutely sure that that's where it needs to go? Because they don't even know they have land-based alternatives. So the land-based alternatives, land-based is so important, right? So they can see, right?
Hmm.
And sometimes, do you want me, I'll even say, do you want me to hold that over here till next week? Right, or
Hmm.
whatever, right? So
Hmm.
it depends on, as we're working through where that should, whatever, right? But the more important piece is for them to understand how deeply they love. And love is everything, and love and kindness is everything. For them to understand the kind human being in time that they are, in and their blood memory, you
Hmm.
know is that ancestral? Is this how your people operate? And they'll check inside, where did you learn this from? Right? Oh, which ancestor, and they can feel the line of kindness, or the line. You really want them to know their roots, their
Hmm.
intergenerational roots,
Hmm.
right? So they know who they are
Hmm.
in time, ancestrally. Like, I know my great grandmother comes through me. I know I'm on her line. I really tried really hard to find out if the Russian Mennonite white side of me. I even went to Russia trying to figure,
Oh,
like,
wow.
do I have a line here? Let me feel some of this. I could feel nothing. So that my strongest ancestral line. So I pick up some. This is the first time I'm living in an all-white environment, and so
Mhm.
I have to get a real. I get I laugh about it, because here I am in this white building. I'm used to thinking, well, it's about time you kind of connected into some of that whiteness, Shirley. So it's hilarious in some ways, and but some of these lines, some of your intergenerational roots are pretty solid and strong, and that blood memory is just like whooshing through your system, right?
Mhm.
Which is, in my case, comes up through my great grandmother, just whooshes through me.
Mhm.
Um, and So I want that for my clients. I want them to be able to, not just be here, but to be here,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah,
to
yeah,
know
yeah,
yourself
yeah,
through time,
yeah.
and love yourself. And you get so many, it's so rich.
Do a lot of the people that you work with, do they already share this vast understanding of the
Oh,
culture?
I thought is open to, the only thing we ask in I thought is our instructors and coaches be Indigenous and have an Indigenous life lived, and
Mhm.
then be graduates of I thought. So they really have the visceral understanding by that time
Mhm.
of themselves through time, and it's easier for them to be instructing and teaching and coaching and helping when they
Mhm.
have this deep experiencing. Um, so people come in knowing nothing because you're a student. You come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is all teachable stuff. And so we have an actual, a program without.
Mm-hmm.
It's step by step.
Mm-hmm.
They learn how to make the right space, and they learn about how to observe themselves in the East and observe themselves in the West. They learn how. This is all teachable stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
Gene, where he
Mm-hmm.
taught you how to go in. People come into the room there, they know nothing. And the hardest people to teach, I find, often are the psychiatrists and the psychologists that have already all been trained,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they really have to undo a lot in order to
Yes. Yeah.
be in a lodge, to be lodge based, to be land based. It's
Mm-hmm.
like they got to set all that other knowledge aside. And I say, keep it. You never have too much knowledge, right? And focusing isn't good for everything. Have a gazillion tools in your toolkit, right? But while you're doing IFOT, you need to set all that down, because now you're going to learn a whole other way of being, right? And we just graduated 24 psychologists, mainly from Alberta, and some of them are non-Indigenous. Most of them are Indigenous. So it's for everybody. I thought
Mm-hmm.
it's for everybody. But it's particularly for people working with Indigenous peoples from Turtle Island who have been experiencing ongoing genocide,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's where we focus a lot of our. Um, Anybody can learn it if they're willing to take the time and sit down. We meet with them in our program. It's every 2 months for a year. Every second month we gather. Some of it's hybrid now. Sometimes they teach some in person and some online. And
Mm-hmm.
some, because of COVID, we had to put some online,
Yeah.
which I was really nervous about. But it seems to be working. It was against we have an IFOT collective of
Mm-hmm.
Indigenous elders like myself. We make the decisions for IFOT. So I don't make the decisions anymore. I try not to make any of them wherever I can. I try to step back as much as possible.
Yeah.
So, and it was this decision was that they were going to do this, and so we did adjust it, much under my duress, because I didn't think it could not be done online, but they did, and bravo to them. So after COVID, I was hoping everything would go back to in person, but it's very expensive
Yes.
because you have to fly instructors in and coaches in. For every four student has a coach to to watch, and every single thing they do to get them
Mm-hmm.
on that red line, right? And to get an issue anchored for that red line conversation. So it's intensive, and yeah. So in the program, the first 2 days about getting their brains to rethink, come off the Western thought and come into an all my relations perspective on all of things that relate to trauma. And then the third day is actually practicing that. So it's a very practical program, hands-on. Right?
Wow. The reason that I was asking just about who you would see in therapy is, and what they might already know, is because I'm thinking, when you're talking, although I don't come from that culture, a lot of the things you're saying, my body intuitively uh, is enlivened by.
Dan knows. This is the
And
other thing.
yes.
Your language doesn't know,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
your body and your spirit knows every single thing I'm saying. I always
Hmm.
say iPod is not new. This
Hmm.
is ancient stuff that's been here
Hmm.
forever. We all know it.
Hmm.
Every one of our clients know it, not in their brains, but in their bodily self, right? So I think that's why people resonate to iPod. we never advertise, as you notice. I try not to, for you to ever try to find me. I try to
Mhm.
hide from people because the waiting lists are years long,
Wow.
right? I try, I mean, I think even like for this interview, I had to think long. Am I really going to do it? What if the phone starts ringing? What if people start, we can't help them
Hmm.
because we're running like, I don't know, maybe 5 programs at a time, which have like 20 students, and
Wow.
that's been ongoing for years.
But you keep it quiet just because enough people find a way to find you, and you
And
can't
there's
be.
still a huge waiting list. That's
Yeah,
one thing. But the
yeah.
other reason is genocide. They'll kill it. They'll kill it. Or
How
they'll
would
appropriate it. They'll
yeah,
either kill it or appropriate it,
right.
right? And so you notice I'm very reluctant to do interviews. You will not see me up at a conference.
Hmm.
I won't go anywhere where they make me talk about I fought because I'm protecting the baby.
Yeah.
Because the baby always will be murdered. In the Indigenous world, our babies get murdered. I hate
It's
to say it,
yeah.
right? And at the same time, I thought it's like a wildfire. I thought it's lasted for over 40 years. That's unthinkable for an Indigenous program.
Hmm.
Unthinkable because they get wiped out as soon as they're, you know. So all of that protectionism, and I'm not going to tell you what I'm really doing. I'm
Hmm.
not going to give interviews, and the secrecy has worked quite a bit.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
work behind
Yeah.
the scenes.
Yeah.
Don't work in the big. And like you said, it would just surprise me when you first came on and you said to me, "You're well known in the focusing field." How could I be well known? You wouldn't see me anywhere in the focusing field.
Well, that's interesting that somehow
Yeah,
it's getting through, even though you're not easy to find.
yeah.
Yeah. Can I just ask, when you were first talking about focusing and finding the similarity between what you were already doing and what Jean was talking about, it sounded as though there were some things that really resonated and worked well. I'm wondering if there's some things that really weren't right for you to carry into your teaching and program.
Well, I think the main thing is looking at the felt sense
Yeah.
uh, from a non-collective perspective. Uh, but at the same time, having said that, my gosh, we can talk about a felt sense
Hmm.
differently.
Hmm.
But my goodness, here we are together. You
Hmm.
can look at the felt sense and
Hmm.
it be all, yours or whatever that is. I can look at a felt, it's still all a felt sense.
Hmm.
I can look
Hmm.
at it way more broadly and
Hmm.
more, through time and more collectively, because the felt sense generally isn't even you, right? It's connected to something that's vicarious and that is intergenerational, and that you are just a small little piece of the felt
Hmm.
sense.
Hmm.
The you of it is just a small part of the felt sense,
Can
right?
I ask a question about that? Um, and again, I'm not exactly sure if it is a question that makes sense, but the question is, for me, if I'm focusing and I have a felt sense, and it's a felt sense that really quickly I realize this is more than me. And maybe I even get images or senses of people in my family or where I came from or growing up on the prairies or all sorts of things that I think this is broader. The question sometimes is, why is it coming through me?
Exactly. So it depends, and this is the other thing about focusing
Hmm.
that I find, like you said, what is the thing that gets in the way for me?
Hmm.
Is just what you just did,
Yeah.
because it's not anchored to anything, and you don't know what it's attached to. So in I thought,
Hmm.
you first find out what your anchor is so you know what the hell it's attached to, right? So let's say I don't just go into my body
Hmm.
like that.
Hmm.
I into a felt sense because
Hmm.
it's like a nebulous thing that, oh God knows what. And it's dangerous with genocide because not only that, it could take you to some, insane. It helps you dissociate instead of helps. It can be very dissociative. So let's say a client comes in and you don't ask them to go into their body right away. You would first say, what are some of the problems? What are some of the issues in your life? And you find out what one of their things is that you're going to target today. And once you've got the target, you anchor that in your lodge. In other words, okay, it's about it's about my 3-year-old son who vomited at school and the teacher blah 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 or whatever. And so you put that there on the lodge. Oh, you can't see me, but there's actually a lodge in the Indigenous world, and the psychotherapy doesn't happen across. It happens down on a lodge. Okay. So a lodge is the gland itself. You work from the land up. You don't work from here up. You work from the land. If there's an anchor, and then you come to the body. Okay, let's see, what's that like? What's going on in here about that? So you know what that is right away. And once you're in the here about that, then you might end up on the red line. Like you said, everybody's there. Where are you in time? What's happening there? And then there will let you know what it knows, the knowledge keeping piece about that time. Some of it will be vicarious, some of it, but there's a conversation that goes on there that is about that issue. So then that thing over there knows something, and it will inform you. Then you bring it back from the red line back into the self. What's that? All of that trying to tell you about that, right? Because it's about today's world. We always keep it about today's world. And it'll give you a sense of what you need to do next, what's going, a whole bunch of information.
So the anchor is
critical.
But the anchor is also, it sounds very personal.
Well, the issue is a personal issue for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
But so you need conversation about, remember I said that the red line will be specific to a particular issue, and that whole red line will change depending on what issue is being presented. So your personal issue doesn't belong to you. It belongs to that intergenerational everything conversation that will be, it's like a grandmother coming and saying, hey, Greg, this is what you need to do, right?
but it's like your issue is the current spot of that red line.
Because if you just go into the red line, there's so much there. How would you even find out what is related to that, right? So again, you anchor with an issue, a situation, a thing. And also it'll cut all your dissociation down. I don't have clients dissociate in my office. They might go to places where there was memory dissociation, but there's no current dissociation going on in IFOT sessions. There are memory dissociation, places where there was some dissociation. Right? So, which is really important when you're dealing with genocide or PTSD. Right? You don't want your client dissociating on your couch, because what the heck, right? So that's why the anchor is also very critical, because they know what they're working on.
Yes. So you wouldn't, as some focusing people might, and as I might sometimes, start by going into grounding yourself first, but not in an issue. But start by just noticing that you're feeling something and you don't know what it's about.
I would never do that.
You wouldn't do that.
It's dangerous for genocide.
Okay, interesting.
Because God knows where you're going to go. And we've learned that over and over and over again in genocide-informed psychotherapy. Like, do not just go the fuck in there, man. You're talking genocide here. Know what you're going in for and what that's anchored to, right? And keep your client really safe. What's interesting is once they learn how to do that, people get better really quickly. PTSD can be handled very quickly. if they have, the safety things in
Hmm.
there that are required, anchored, lodged land, you're on the land, into the red line. They're not alone. Get into their intergenerational knowing, their
Hmm.
experiential
Hmm.
knowledge. They're the knowledge keeper, not you. You're
Hmm.
no knowledge keeper. I always say, I'm
Hmm.
not the knowledge keeper. You are. Let's go find out what your knowledge keeping is, right? You're the one who knows it all. You're the medicine person here. I'm just your facilitator. I'm just the person trying to help you find your red line and
Hmm.
gather up your medicines and knowledge so that you can have a good life, happy life, right?
Hmm.
And we have a lot of fun in IFOD too, and we've been through such tragedies together. It's a
Yeah.
hoot. It's amazing what we say. You found your kid last week? Oh my God! Right? So we have a way. There's a lot of humor in the Indigenous world to help you through, to
Yeah.
soften the blow, to keep you all together. Yeah.
So are people in the Indigenous world, they're quite open to this
Oh,
form
they
of,
love iPod. As you
okay.
can see, they line up for years to get
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I'm serious. But this one woman, 7 years to the graduation here this last week, and something like 7 years she's been waiting to get into iPod. So, right, but
Wow.
wasn't in the right city, couldn't, or got canceled from that. Like that city stopped doing it, and because they'd already had all their graduates, right, or that, and it's taught in the in on the land in the north too, right? It's taught a lot of places.
Yeah.
It's not always your university classroom. Sometimes
Yeah.
it is.
Hmm. And how about, is it always um, not in the training, but in the actual work when you're working with someone, is it always one to one?
No, it's not always one to one. You
Okay.
use it for group therapy, you can use it in family therapy, you can use
Okay.
it in couples counseling, you can use it in one to one, you can use it in classrooms.
Yeah.
Like we teach it we teach it in layers. Like if you're a frontline worker, you can
Hmm.
take IFOT with the psychotherapists, right? Your job is to leave out the crux. So most of the work you're going to be doing is forward moving, but you're going to be doing the same kind of work, but you'll be not doing the therapeutic relationship and the crux. So they take those tools, out to the classrooms,
Okay.
to the field. We even have police officers who learn IFOT so they can do a better job in the field when they're working with Indigenous communities, nurses, doctors. And the hardest ones for me are the psychiatrists and those that are deeply trained in psychotherapy. You know, that's the hard part.
Mhm.
And people have to get used to that you're not allowed to ask any questions until the last day, the afternoon of the last day is full of clinical supervision and questions. So they have to sit on all their questions because we're, we're flying into a city. We can't
Mhm.
afford to waste any of their time, and their communities need them now. So it's really intense. It's just work focused. There's
Mhm.
there's no navel gazing, right? Do, and then on the last day they get to debrief. Usually by that time they're too tired anyway, and then you don't have to answer any questions. Not true at all. Not true at all. They have a gazillion questions.
But when it's in the group format, do you revise the way of working at all, or?
Well, like right now in Canada, they're running program across we have a lot of things like murdered and missing
Hmm.
women, groups across the country to bring in. Right now, we're doing all the um, the men and women who were sterilized by the state, right? Many of us were sterilized,
Okay.
right? Um, and I don't want to go into it, but so now we're bringing out their stories, that truth telling. So we have sterilization groups, survivor groups,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we're using I fought a lot for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
When the testimonies and the, getting the stories down. I thought's been in the background of many things,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, like the bringing up the bones of the missing children, right, from the residential schools. We
Okay.
don't advertise that we're there. We
Yeah.
just do all the psychological services around all that. But and so we're using aspects of, there's all kinds of aspects of I thought.
Mm-hmm.
We're teaching, people how to sit beside horror, uh, you know, uh, how to, as survivors talk, how to set that in land. We don't use these words. They don't know this is happening,
Mm-hmm.
but a whole bunch of I thought is happening
Mm-hmm.
in a myriad of things across this country for truth and reconciliation when the survivors were telling their stories.
Yeah.
The I thoughters were out there in hundreds, uh, being able to lay down the atrocity. So again, that frontline work,
Mm-hmm.
like in the downtown east side, where most workers are trained in what's called Indigenous tools for living. They might not be trained as, there's two programs. There's Indigenous tools for living, where we leave out most of the crux and all that, but a lot of this is on the ground that you can do right now to save somebody's life right here at this point,
When you
right?
when you
And all
say
kinds of tools there.
when you say leaving out the crux, what is it that exactly you leave out?
You forward move your questions. So let's say I'm in the field and someone's suicidal. I'm going to use a lot of IFOT to help them download that. How much is this vicarious? How much is this your mother's? How much
Okay.
is this your friend at school? And I'll be using land. They'll be putting stones down or whatever it is. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
using something there. So I'm still using a lot of the clearing space and the unpacking.
Yeah.
But then I'm not going into any memory places. Where are you? Right?
Yes. Okay.
Crux is when you're in the deepest. You're not in the basement. Well, this is you leave. You can pull the whole crux out and set it beside you, and just forward move them, and they will get a lot because
Mm-hmm.
they'll learn to unpack. They'll learn to track. Is this familiar? How old is this? Oh, yeah, that's my mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll learn a lot of there's a lot of tracking in I thought, and so they'll learn and how to empty out your tank of vicarious, and how to honor it and where it goes in land. There's a lot of all of that goes on. But the other stuff, that's where you have to have a therapeutic relationship when you're getting into the deeper crux stuff. So we have both in the room when we're training, so they know, unless they're in a therapeutic relationship, they don't do this other thing, right? Or they
Mm-hmm.
do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very, very um, safety minded.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea that in addition to it being a therapeutic sort of movement, it's also a cultural movement,
It's
support
huge.
movement.
A way of being. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
huge. All
yeah,
the
yeah,
social services
yeah. Wow.
use it. Child welfares in a lot of the Indigenous communities are based in IFOT. They use and they people are trained extensively.
Mm-hmm.
Some places it's you have to have that to get the job, depending where you are. And other places they know nothing about it, right?
Okay.
Canada is huge,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So it's like a movement in terms of cultural
Mm-hmm.
movement, and
That's
it's
yeah.
very culturally neutral, like extremely culturally neutral, so that the person sitting with you, you as the clinician, can never bring, you bring it out of them. You don't put it forward. Like I don't have my fan there when I'm working,
Mhm.
right? I'll see it,
Okay.
because what if I'm sitting with someone who only believes in Jesus Christ,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
I have to make sure I'm culturally neutral and that whatever comes, and I've got, unless you're some Indigenous people do, because they're working out of their teepee and they're having sessions like like Carly does a lot of her sessions in teepee, so she can have all her cultural stuff there.
Yeah.
But for an Indigenous focusing oriented therapist, you need to be culturally neutral, so that it's all about their lodge, not yours.
So, I mean, that was one of my questions that I didn't ask because until now it didn't seem like it fit. But if you're working with someone, for example, someone who's a Christian, and a lot of what you're using as resources are, suggesting,
Yeah, what if on the red line, and we've had this happen,
yeah,
Mother Mary comes in on that red line, right?
mm,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay, right? Whatever, and there's so many cultures around the world, right?
yeah, yeah,
So whatever you, the client,
yeah,
whatever you're attached to
yeah,
interconnectedly through
yeah,
time
yeah,
belongs in the lodge.
yeah,
Anything I have
yeah,
has no business being in that lodge, because
yeah,
I'm there as the person
yeah,
that's helping your lodge. The lodge actually belongs to your red line, not mine.
yes. That's,
However,
yeah,
mine might be invited in for
yeah,
something important, and then it'll reveal itself whether I need to bring something of me there, which is not often, right? But
okay.
could happen, right? Could happen where I need to be there too for some reason. So yeah, and so you have to be sure if you're bringing your anything of you in there, it's
Hmm.
not for you,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
need to tell that,
Yeah.
right? In fact, I rarely ever even consider thinking about that or talk about that. But if it's serving, and that's a big
Hmm.
thing in the Indigenous world about serving, and so they want you to share your experiential knowledge, but in a really good way.
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
they don't want you to be uh, unhuman there. They
Hmm.
they don't they
Hmm.
want you to be there with purpose and with for serving.
Yes,
And
I
that's
get
a
that.
big deal in the Indigenous world. You're here to serve.
Yeah,
You're not here for yourself. That's huge,
yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
they want to know um, truth in the room, and they want your truth in the room too. If I'm going to be here
Mm-hmm.
talking about my vagina, what's your vagina doing too,
Hmm.
right? But you have to be really, really careful
Yeah,
about where, how, and if.
yeah.
And it needs to be needed, it can't be gratuitous.
Well, the thing that I get from what you shared with that client is you weren't sharing just your story. You were also saying that we belong together in a whole line of
That's the
stories.
collective. Again, back to the
Exactly.
collective,
Yeah. And that
right?
that's actually what she needed to hear at that point. She had gone
Yeah.
into that isolated.
Her whole body, and she was all better after that, and
Mm, yeah,
ongoingly better. I
yeah,
mean, literally,
yeah.
literally falling into the collective
Hmm.
shifts everything. Her
Yes.
whole neurobiology
Yeah.
changed, her physiology changed.
Hmm.
She walked differently, she talked differently, she began to live in the West and not stuck in the East and the South,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Fascinating. I
Mhm.
want to just ask one last question. It goes back to the group thing. Just because you were saying how important it is to kind of ground the issue in the lodge, and that only then do you begin to sort of work. You would never go straight to the body. And I'm thinking in a group, then, is there that same kind of grounding before a person begins to share?
Well, in our
Or,
in our group, usually they're a mixture. Yeah, you have to be careful with sharing circles because you can get some people pretty. Uh, we help teach, because there are so many sharing circles. We help teach facilitators how to have them share into a fire or something in the middle of the lodge. So they're just sharing, they're not just sharing and getting lost, because
Yeah.
sometimes you're talking about just sharing circles versus therapy circles. I thought therapy, group therapy has really an agenda with topics, and everything is anchored to a particular thing that you're going to be doing. Maybe you're
Okay.
teaching them connect and protect today, how to sit beside trauma. Like, so you have an agenda in a
Okay.
therapy circle, but in a sharing circle, you never know what's going to come.
Yeah.
So you have to, you teach your group, even how to sit. So if I come at you like this, right, this, and I'm sharing with you, I'm putting
Mhm.
that all right into your body. Do you see
Mhm.
that?
Yes.
Going right into your chest, right? Fuck, that's dangerous. Right? So I have to, you teach them how to sit sideways, and how to something called connect and protect, and how to share into the fire. So you're not sharing on anybody, because then
Okay.
you get the catastrophe and the genocide flying all over the place, and then
Yeah.
everything becomes, people get triggered. And so there's a whole bunch of techniques where we teach people,
Mhm.
how to set up their group lodge so
Mhm.
that they're sharing genocidal shit in a safe and productive way, right? And so right down to, you know, your audience, know who's coming, if you know which one's coming, like, and we put our facilitators, we in the middle of different groups, so that we can reframe things. You know, this person said that, then we'll have that one reframe it, and then the next
Mhm.
goes on. There's a ton of facilitation
Mhm.
training that goes, that that we teach, facilitation training, that is genocide informed, uh, land based,
Mhm.
and has the medicines it needs there to let that go smoothly, so that you're not actually creating trauma. You can grow trauma in a minute, right? It's easy to grow trauma, right? Have somebody spill it all over, tell their story way out here on top of everybody, and then everybody, that thing has grown into this monster. So learning how to contain all of that
Mhm.
is, again, another training that people have to go through. We
That,
teach them how to do that, especially when it comes to what's going on in Canada, because there's so many truth and reconciliation circles, sterilization circles, murdered and missing circles. It's endless, endless, because, the truth telling's happening over the last 10
Mhm.
years.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's just sounds so wise and
Mm-hmm.
crucial. I really
Trying to
appreciate that.
save a life, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
People go away and kill themselves after they tell their stories in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
4 days later,
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't have some tools there for them to take with them.
Yeah. I'm very conscious of the amount of time I've taken. I want to
Yeah,
just
it's over. Yes.
I want to just ask. I want to just ask if there's anything else that
No,
you
no,
would.
goodbye.
Okay. And also, I often put like a website or a way of contacting. So
No contact
no
today.
contact. Yeah.
No, no, please don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fair
spare me
enough.
that.
Yes, yes, that's fine. And nothing for any of the trainings or anything like that.
No,
Nothing.
no, no,
Okay.
no, no, no.
So that's my concern is
Not
that,
even how to find us.
well, that's the worry because people are going to find what you've said very interesting, and I think it's going to inspire people. And I'm just wondering,
That's my problem.
yes,
That's why I've
exactly.
been waiting. I think you've asked many times before, and I just kept
Hmm.
postponing,
Hmm.
postponing.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can't have that. Have them
Hmm.
come to you.
Well, I'm not teaching what you're teaching. Yeah.
The
Mhm.
Aboriginal people are, the Facebook is our main medium for how to get a hold of people,
Okay.
right? And in iFought.
Hmm.
So there is, I think you're on that iFought
Yeah,
Facebook group.
yes, I am.
Yeah.
What if I do this? Just put out the conversation as normal and they'll hear it. I'll leave this in, so they'll hear me say, if anyone is so inspired, the first thing is to see what you can make of it in your own community, potentially, how you can begin to evolve and ground this kind of work in your own culture, your own area. The second thing, I guess, is if you're so inspired and you really, really do want to read a little bit more, find out a little bit more about the IFOT, there is the chapter in the book that I edited.
Yeah, and there are a bunch of articles. YouTube Indigenous Focusing-Oriented Therapy.
Okay.
If you YouTube
Yeah.
Indigenous Focusing-Oriented Therapy, there are
Yes.
tons of little
Okay.
vignette
Perfect.
videos that I make I make that for the northern communities,
Okay.
and so they can actually see some of the work there.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Greg. I
Thank
did
you
it.
so much. You did it, and I really
Take
appreciate it.
care.
Thank
Take
you
care.
so much.
Bye bye.
Bye
Thank
for
you.
now. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.